Do you need growth hormone to be a pro bodybuilder in this day and age? Stay tuned. I'll let you know. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RxMuscle.com. Welcome inside the Arnold Classic episode of Ask Dave, your weekly question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Whatever's on your mind, be it Arnold Classic related, diet, supplementation, training, bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, it is all on the table. We have a lot to get to. We have a couple of sales to promote. Species Nutrition, we're not going to tell you exactly what it is, but starting Friday night, midnight Eastern Standard Time, and going throughout the duration of Arnold Classic weekend into Sunday midnight, we are going to have a major sale on the website. Not going to reveal the details just yet. Stick tight. Thursday night at about 11:59 p.m. So starting Friday morning, you will get the details, but it promises to be a very big sale, as we generally do over the course of this Arnold Classic weekend. We go right into the questions. The first two questions on this show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. I'm 6'4", broad shoulders, so upper chest was always a struggle for me, mind to muscle connection. It has grown over the years, but what else can I do to really improve that upper chest pump?
I tell everyone, because I had an upper chest issue too. Inner uppers are always the hardest part to make grow, unless you're Marcus Rule. But I prioritize upper chest. So everything I do for chest is upper. Incline. I always have an incline. I don't do any flat bench. I don't do any decline, because no one has a weak lower chest. Remember, when you're training on your when you're doing some kind of an incline, you're also not. You got to understand, you're not. I got President Trump.
The president.
I don't know what's going on here. All right. When you're training upper chest or incline, you're still working the mid chest and the lower chest too. So you're not training. You can't just train one part of your chest. But what I feel is that when you're doing lower, in declines, or you're doing flat bench, you're really not hitting that upper pec very much. You don't feel it there. And that, I always go by feel. I tell everyone, if you don't feel a movement in the right place, then it's not stimulating that area. And so I never felt flat bench in my upper chest. I only felt it in the mid chest. So I started doing everything on a slight incline, 30 to 40 degrees the most. And I'll do incline barbell presses. I'll do incline dumbbell presses. I'll do incline flies. I'll do incline hammer strength machine. And I don't do anything on a flat ever. And guess what? Your shoulders will thank you for that, because flat benching is terrible for your shoulder joint anyway. What I also used to do, and I've talked about this before, is that when I would do my whatever my weekly injections were, I would try to save something to inject on chest day. And what I would do is I would take a half an ml or half a cc in an insulin pen, and I pop half into each upper inner pec right before I would go to the gym and train it. What that does, it's not going to make you grow from doing that, but what it's going to do is it's going to irritate that area and make it swell a little bit. And when you're training your chest and squeezing, you're going to feel those upper inner pecs contract a little better. It kind of gives you a better mind-muscle connection to that. So once a week, only incline movements, half a cc into each inner outer upper pec before you go to the gym. And I'm telling you, you're going to get some great results from that.
Question about men's physique, but I think it could apply to other categories of bodybuilding as well. Do we need, I mean, again, this is coming from a men's physique competitor. Do we need GH to be competitive on high levels nowadays? Or do you think just with test anabolics, we can achieve, quote, pro levels in terms of muscle growth?
I think that people who are very genetically gifted can get away without using growth hormone. But growth hormone increases your potential that you didn't have before. So it improves your genetics. And the way it improves your genetics, and I've talked about this before, is that growth hormone causes IGF-1 release from the liver. Insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1, has an effect on muscle where it turns stem cells, we call them satellite cells that surround the muscle, but they're stem cells, they're undifferentiated cells, turns them into mature muscle fibers. They're very, very small, but you're adding to the population of existing muscle fibers that are in your body. So if you were never to take GH, okay, most of the muscle growth that you get is the enlargement of the existing muscle fibers that are already in your body. So steroids make those fibers get bigger. Training makes those things get bigger, and eating the right foods and high protein makes them get bigger. But it doesn't create new muscle fibers. GH via IGF-1 causes new muscle fibers to be produced from stem cells. In doing that, you can now enlarge those new cells. So if you don't take GH, you're not going to get that new muscle cell production. You're just going to enlarge what you got already. So that's why guys in the 90s started getting way, way bigger than they were in the 80s and late 80s and early 90s, because no one used GH back. Well, very few people were using growth hormone. It wasn't available synthetically until the early 90s. And then bodybuilders really didn't get a hold of it till probably mid 90s on a high level. But that's when the physiques really took off, because now you were increasing your genetic potential, so to speak. And it's so, do you need it? No, but will it help and make you better? Yeah, it will. And we know that's a definite fact. And they seem to work synergistically with each other, because the GH creates the new muscle cells, and then the steroids make them get bigger faster. And that's just the way it goes. Now, these two questions were from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. It's an app that I have. You can download it from the Android store or the iTunes store. It's $29 a month. You get me as your coach in your back pocket. All my writing, all my videos in one organized place. We do a Q&A video, like another Ask Dave, just for the app members every single week. I answer everyone's questions in an open forum, so everyone sees everyone's questions, everyone's answers. We put up workouts. All my protocols are there, off-season, pre-contest, my keto diet's there. All the drug protocols are there. It's a great, great library of Dave Palumbo information. And it's, like I said, it's $29 a month. You can't go wrong. And we're always adding new stuff to it. So it's like a constant learning experience. And you guys have supported it the last several years, and it's grown. And that's why I continue to do it. So I want to thank you for it. If you haven't seen it, download it, check it out.
Before we go to the rest of the questions, Dave, our friends at Titan Medical have a sale going as well. Do you know if they're going to be at the Arnold, by the way?
I would imagine they probably would be, but I don't know for sure. I have to confirm that.
But they do have a sale. It's only going to be for the next, or rather expires in 2 days. It is a sale on their weight loss therapies, 10% off. And it's a good list of them: semaglutide, retrorutide, ECA Stack Plus, Titan Trim, testosterone, tirzepatide,
Tirzepatide,
tirzepatide, AOD 9604, L-carnitine, Titan Complete, Prometheus, Fat Burning Cream, and MOTS-C. You go to titanmedicalcenter.com, use the promo code TIGHTENUP. This hashtag TIGHTENUP will drop that in the article description below, or you can give them a call. Again,
or you can just tell them RxMuscle
right,
Dave sent you.
Tell them Dave Palumbo RxMuscle sent you, and you'll be able to take advantage of this and all their
I want to just say one thing. The reason why this is important, I mean, a lot of people are now using Ozempic, Mounjaro, which is Mounjaro is the tirzepatide, and Ozempic is semaglutide, and they can't get it from a pharmacy, okay, because the pharmacies are out of it. But Titan has it, okay, because they compound it, and it's a lot cheaper than if you have to go through a pharmacy. And a lot of people have asked me, do I like these GLP-1 agonists? And I actually do, for bodybuilders, because for bodybuilders understand that you're not going to just starve yourself and lose weight, because then you lose muscle. We eat our meals, okay? The GLP-1 agonists prevent you from cheating in between meals. That's the key, because a lot of people just can't control themselves. So it takes away the appetite, it takes away that hunger pain, and it actually improves blood sugars too. And it might have a direct fat burning effect. We don't know. I still believe that a lot of the fat burning you're getting from it is from not overeating. The key is not to stop eating. It's to eat your meals, but you're not going to eat between meals. You're going to have I have a lot of women on it who have, binging and cheating problems, and they are doing awesome on it. You just have to make sure you take a really good fiber product like FIBERLYZE, because it does slow your GI tract a little bit, and you don't want to get constipated on this, which will happen if you don't take a fiber supplement. So FIBERLYZE and GLP-1 agonists, match made in heaven.
Let's take questions from our other platforms, from our Instagram, from our YouTube community page, from Facebook, etc., etc. A lot of good questions here. Some of them related to the Arnold Classic. Alex guards buggy. What is the more ideal practice in terms of growing arms? Dedicating a whole arm day, or doing less volume with more frequent arm exercises after another body part?
The problem with doing more frequent arm exercises is that when you're training the other body parts, back, shoulders, chest, you're already working your arms a little bit, right? Because when you do presses, you're using triceps. When you're doing pulls, you're doing biceps. So now you're going to put another couple days of arms in there. You're going to completely overtrain your arms. They're going to get smaller. Less is better. One arm day a week. Or if you want to do what I used to do back in the day, which a lot of people don't like, they don't want to do an 8-day rotation. I would do an 8-day rotation. I told you I would do biceps and forearms on one day, all by itself, and triceps and calves on another day, all by itself. So that was those were my short days. I could do that because I didn't have a job. That was my job. But for most people, biceps, triceps on the same day is probably a good practice. Give arms its own day, and that's it, once a week, because it's getting indirect work already from those other body parts. The worst mistake you can make, which is what everyone does because they want bigger arms, they train it more. Don't train them more. Less. High intensity, heavy weight, full range of motion. Hit them hard on the days you do it, and then that's it. Rest them.
Let me ask you also just on this topic, because again, when we talk about like calves, right? Some people say that they'll dedicate an entire session to calves, maybe separate from their leg day. Forearms, do you give that, I guess, that unique treatment as well?
No, I do, forearms after I'm done with my arm workout. And you only need to do a couple sets. I do 2 sets of wrist curls, reverse wrist curls, and I do 2 sets of wrist curls. I usually do them with a cable, one arm at a time. And that's enough, because the forearms are getting indirect work from the bicep and tricep workout. But I like to directly work the forearms only because, number one, you want to make sure these wrists are nice and strong, because if you don't train forearms, a lot of times what happens, you start getting wrist pain from doing heavy presses and stuff like that. Because these muscles here get weak. So you definitely want to do your wrist curls, and keep them strong. And once again, you don't need to overtrain forearms either, because if you overdo those, they're going to get smaller. Same thing. Hard, full range of motion, heavy weight. Don't do too many sets, and that's it. You're done.
These are the kind of questions that people come to you for. It's from Anthony Brack. The most dangerous cycle you've ever heard of?
Yeah, we've heard some crazy cycles. Like, anyone who takes 1,000 milligrams of Trenbolone a week is out of their freaking mind. So that, even without, I've seen people have lists and lists and lists of stuff they do. And if they're not taking 1,000 milligrams of Trenbolone, it probably is not as dangerous as the people who take 1,000 milligrams of Trenbolone a week. Because I used to take 50 milligrams 3 times a week of Trenbolone, and I was ready to, I was ready to go out of my mind. I was so aggressive on that stuff. I can't even imagine what 1,000 milligrams a week would do to you. So I would not advise doing that. Now, probably the craziest cycles I've heard is stuff that Boston Lloyd used to do. By the way, may he rest in peace. 3 years. Yesterday was the anniversary of his death. We talked about it on After Hours. If you guys want to go on there, we were actually debating who is better, Sam Sulek or Boston Lloyd. I think we all most of us have the consensus that Boston at his peak was better than what Sam is right now. Will Sam surpass that? Possibly. But Boston did some of the craziest shit I've ever heard. So, by his own admission too. And I don't know right off the bat what the list of stuff was, but he did some pretty crazy dosages. So.
You get in tomorrow at around 10, 11 a.m. into Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have an early flight.
I was going to say, because a lot of the fans have been asking if we're going to have any coverage of the Arnold Amateur. Now, that's generally never a question that we get. Now, obviously, the
Right.
unique circumstances that Sam Sulek is going to be competing. So
Right.
is that something that you're open to tomorrow?
Yeah, I would like to interview him, whether he wins or loses. I mean, even if he comes in last place, I don't care. I think we should go there and talk to him a little bit. We haven't really had any direct contact with him. I think the fans would love it. Even if we get a little off as he's walking off stage, like interview with him, that would be kind of cool. I mean, if he's up for it, I would love to do that and just see, congratulate him on his win a couple weeks, 2 weeks ago, and on the future of what he's doing. I think he's doing things right. He's having a good time. He's making good money, and I like to talk to people who are successful at what they're doing. I think it's worth giving them the accolades they deserve. He hasn't been on RxMuscle yet, so if he's listening to this, or if anyone else, his friends, is listening to this, we'd love to hook it up. So tell him to contact us.
So we'll see if we can get in contact with him tomorrow over the course of Arnold Classic weekend. Question from B. Wayne. I had a valve replacement surgery about 3 years ago, and I actually talked to you on a phone consult just after. I'm currently on eliquis 5 mg twice a day. Is it out of the question to consider taking v-mineralyze or omegalyze?
Why would you? He thinks he can't take those? Is that what he's saying?
Yes, I guess he's asking, like, is it,
No, you can take them. They give you all these restrictions. If you're on eliquis, you're not clotting, believe me. You can take whatever you want. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. I know that they are a little. Because what I do is because remember when I went to Mexico, I had that like little blood clot in my neck, or an old clot. They put me on some eliquis. I only take it when I travel, and the doctors didn't give me any contraindications. That I couldn't take vitamins or stuff like that. What they don't want you to do is take too much vitamin K, because they think it might make the anti-clotting too severe. But there is no vitamin K anyway in v-mineralyze or omegalyze, and the amount that it's going to reduce I take all those vitamins anyway, and it doesn't make the eliquis work any more severely. So I don't think you have to worry about it.
Pretty deep one here. Question about mistakes that you've made in training, nutrition, recovery as you progress throughout your bodybuilding career, and then I'll add on top of that, from what you've learned as a coach, coaching other bodybuilders, what did you do to correct them in order to progress further? And I guess, what are you advising your clients in terms of correcting those mistakes?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be open to learning new things. I mean, I certainly was probably one of the most knowledgeable people back in the 90s, but I don't know as much. I didn't know as much then as I do now. So obviously I wasn't as smart as I was, or I wasn't as educated. I started out following the typical 80s and early 90s diet, which was no fat, which I realized was a big mistake. And I discovered that. I've told that story already. And then I added fats, but I didn't know the difference between essential fats and saturated fats. And then I learned about that. And so that took me to even another level after that, which is where I'm at now. Obviously very, knowledgeable about the need we have for essential fats. And if you want to grow and burn fat adequately, you have to and be healthy and have good cholesterol levels. Fiber was another big one. I used to be so bloated all the time, and I didn't know the fact that, you have to take a good quality, high, swell rate, soluble fiber supplement to help eliminate waste. And think about it, I was eating 12 times a day and I wasn't taking any fiber. So I was so bloated all the time, and I could have easily eliminated a lot of that. And maybe I would have, my abdominal distension issue wouldn't have been as bad. So I learned about that, and that's why I educated. That's why I created a fiber supplement, basically, because that was a problem that I had. So if I had never had that problem, you guys could, people online make fun of that problem that I had, and that other people have. But you know what? If I didn't have it, I never would have created FIBERLYZE, and everyone's using FIBERLYZE now. So everything in life happens for a reason, so that you can learn something and hopefully take that lesson that you learned and help other people with it. Training. I used to be a chronic overtrainer until I started reading about Dorian and Menser and the more of a heavy duty approach, less volume, high intensity, full range of motion, and that changed how my body grew. I was not growing. I was growing, but I wasn't growing at the level I expected. When I started doing less volume, taking more days off, training with heavier weights with higher intensity, that's when I gained 30 pounds in 18 months. Muscle, not weight. I gained 30 pounds of stage muscle in 18 months. So you got to constantly learn and evolve. And, luckily nowadays, back then we didn't have people like myself and educators online giving information. We had to just figure it out on our own. Nowadays, you have the advantage of watching Ask Dave and asking me questions and me helping you to save the time that I wasted making mistakes. And yet some people listen and some people don't. The people who listen make progress and speed up their development. People who don't listen, they have to learn the hard way. But there are always people that like to learn the hard way. That's just the way it goes. And some people never learn. So you got to constantly keep an open mind and listen to what people are saying and try to say, hey, that guy sounds like a good salesman, but I don't know if the science is what he's saying is very sound. And then you might listen to someone like me and say, you know what, he's not trying to really sell too much to us, but he's giving us a lot of good information. And so I'm going to listen to him. And once again, you got to listen to who resonates with you. But the advantage you guys have is that I've made all these mistakes and I'm able to help you to avoid making the same mistakes that I did.
Question about PED or someone who's dipping their toes in PEDs, and you're already in the top range TRT and lean, say 10% body fat. Your thoughts on Primo or Masteron as a first cycle on top of TRT and low dose GH?
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good cycle already. You got growth hormone, you got testosterone going, and now you're going to add an anabolic. Yeah, once you add two compounds, we've talked about this before. Even if it's only a TRT dose, even if you're taking 200 testosterone, 200 DECA, you're going to grow a lot more than if you were just to take 400 milligrams of testosterone a week. I can guarantee it, because those compounds, they augment each other. Likewise, some people want to do, Primo and testosterone. I have a guy at the gym who looks amazing. He does Anavar and testosterone, and he looks amazing. So it's the additional compound on top of the testosterone that amplifies it. If you're taking GH on top of that, you get a third amplification. So yeah, I think you're going to see results. Now, you're going to put on size that's going to get you to a pro level. Probably not. You're going to have to increase your dosages, but you're going to definitely make some improvements. You're definitely going to see gains once you add that extra compound in there.
There was a dry scoop challenge just a couple of years ago, went viral all over TikTok about dry scooping pre-workouts.
Stupidest thing of all time. Yeah.
So I guess I know your answer to this. Somebody's asking if you can dry scoop FIBERLYZE.
I would love to see you do it, but no. To be honest with you, please don't do it, because you're going to choke and then and die, and then your parents are going to sue me. So I do not. We always say at least 4 to 6 ounces of water, the minimum, in your FIBERLYZE, and let it mix it a little bit. I'll tell you what, something I do. I have no patience. I'm a typical Aquarian. I don't have any patience to do anything and wait for anything. So when I do my fiber at night, I usually put I actually been doing the kidney stuff, because I like to do the kidney detox. I mix it with the FIBERLYZE. So I put a scoop of the kidney stuff, a scoop of the FIBERLYZE, and I mix it like 3 times the spoon. And if sometimes I don't mix it enough, because if you don't mix it enough and the FIBERLYZE doesn't absorb the liquid, the dry FIBERLYZE will coat the back of your throat, and you'll be trying to get it out of there for the next 4 hours, and it'll drive you nuts, because it sticks to the back until it gets moistened enough and falls off. Not a good idea. Stir it until it absorbs enough liquid. It doesn't have to turn to jello, because then it makes it hard to swallow, but at least get that powder all liquefied and then just gulp it down. Do not dry scoop it. Not a good idea.
So last week we got a question about somebody that was having trouble sleeping during the night. I guess a lot of eccentric behavior comes out, especially when you're eating 6+ times, a day. This is from Akib. Is brushing after every meal too much for a bodybuilder eating 6+ times a day?
I'll tell you a funny story. I always have a funny story. By the way, since we gave away all those free Somalyze, Sid, I've had so many people emailing me and telling me how they've never had a better night's sleep in their life. And I'm so happy, because these are people that never tried the product before. And we gave 2 free bottles away, because remember, we had some short-dated products.
And these were our own customers, right? These aren't
these are new customers, though, too. A lot of just random people have said, you fixed my sleeping problem with this product. And for those of you who are asking, because we don't have any on the site right now, we have the new lot of Somalyze coming in probably, either this week or next week. So we'll be back in stock. Now, the question was,
it was about brushing after every meal if you're eating 6+ meals a day.
Back in 2004, I decided I was going to, I had 2 teeth. I have never needed braces as a kid, but I had 2 lower teeth that were like kind of a little crooked, and they always bothered me. And so my dentist said, why don't you do Invisalign? This is before Invisalign. Now everyone does it, but no one had done it back then. There's these little plastic retainers you pop in your mouth, and every 2 weeks you go to the next one, and it progressively moves your teeth back into place. Tremendous discovery. Really good idea. Works really well too. The problem is that if you have to eat, you have to pop the retainer out of your mouth and you eat, and then you got to, put it back in ostensibly, but I'm not going to put it back in if I have food in my teeth. So when I was wearing Invisalign for, I think it was like a 2-year period, between every single meal, I was flossing my teeth and brushing my teeth. And then I put the retainer back in because I didn't want to have that like dirty feel under the retainer. And I did this 6 times a day because I was eating 6 meals a day. It was like the most neurotic, OCD type of thing behavior I have ever had. But you know what? You got to do it. I don't do that anymore. I floss my teeth a lot, but I'm not brushing it. Sometimes if you brush too much, you can brush away your gums too. It's a little too rough on your gums. But you can floss between meals. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a better practice because the flossing takes all the plaque off. You don't necessarily need to brush your teeth unless, what I usually do is I chew a piece of sugar-free gum, which does the same thing essentially. Brushing, not good all day. Flossing, excellent.
There's a question about training and just bodybuilding in general once you've gotten to an older age. I'm seeing if I can find. All right. As a bodybuilder gets into their older ages, 50s and 60s, joint replacements, how does that impact their training, nutrition, and overall recovery? And we do get a lot of questions from, men that are 45 and over as far as transitioning into that age where, again, they may see some changes in their training. What would you advise that profile?
I find that you can train less and get the same out of it when you get a little older. I still kind of am on the same rotation, 5 days on, 2 days off a week. But if I do 4 or 3 days because I'm traveling like to the Arnold, I don't really notice I lose. I don't feel like I lose anything. I feel like my body actually gets a couple extra days of recovery. I do feel like I need a little bit more recovery, a little bit more sleep as I've gotten older. I wake up a little creakier sometimes, But I take my supplements very religiously. I eat really well. I find that if I eat really clean and healthy, I feel way better than if I eat junky food. Whereas when I was younger, I could get away with eating crap and it didn't really affect me negatively. I think mentally I'm sharper when I'm eating clean foods and taking my nutritional supplements on a regular basis and getting my workouts in. So I think you have to be more diligent. A lot of people tell me, I don't really go out drinking and stuff like that, but a lot of people tell me drinking over when you're in your 40s, 50s, as opposed to your 20s and 30s, it's like you just can't. You're wiped out for a couple of days after you do it. Whereas when you're younger, you can drink, wake up the next morning on 2 hours sleep, and go to work and be fine. You can't do that anymore. So what I'm noticing is recovery is definitely hampered as we get older.
Question about EPO. Why do some bodybuilders use EPO? Don't anabolics already accomplish what EPO does, but in a more safer capacity?
Absolutely. EPO, erythropoietin, is the hormone the kidneys produce that tells the bone marrow to produce red blood cells. They give it to people who are anemic or who are in kidney failure. You do not, as a bodybuilder, want to take EPO. We already have a high red blood cell count problem because of even HRT causes that. And a lot of us are dumping blood on a regular basis because of that. So you don't want to, it's ludicrous to take a supplement that only or a drug that only increases red blood cells. That's the last thing we need as bodybuilders. We already got too many of them already. So bad idea, could lead to a blood clot and potentially death. So not a good idea.
And now, since we are at the end of the episode of Arnold Classic Week, the people want to know Dave Palumbo's top 5 Arnold Classic.
Oh boy, this is a tough one. But I'm not gonna go out on a limb and start picking like long shots. I'm gonna go Samson, Derek, Andrew, Carlos.
I guess Brandon or Bonac at this point.
I'm thinking. I think Akeem might beat those guys.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, Akeem. Oof.
I think Akeem is going to really surprise a lot of people. I'm going to go Akeem 5th place.
Could you see a world in which Akeem challenges for fourth.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think. Look, I think Carlos Hakeem are controversial decisions in there, but I've seen some pictures of Carlos, and he looks really good. So I'm comfortable that I think he's going to be a top 5 guy. Hakeem is I've seen, Chris has shown me some stuff. He's a freak, and of course, I'm a big, huge William Bonac fan.
Right.
I love his physique. I got to see how he stacks up in the lineup against these guys. Those guys are a little taller than him, but he kind of matches up with Derek better. So he might be up there. And Brandon is dangerous. The reason I don't bet on Brandon is because whenever I do, he comes in too smooth. and then he winds up, not being where he should be. If he comes in shape, he could win the thing. That's how good he is. So, but I'm going to go Samson, Derek, Andrew, Carlos, Hakeem. I'm sticking with that.
I'm going to prod a little bit more. 2 years ago, during Iron Debate, I asked you what was your bold opinion, your bold prediction or whatever. Forget about who's going to win or whatever, your boldest prediction. And you said that the Mr. Olympia title would come down to between Samson and Andrew. Now, obviously, it didn't turn out that way. It was between Hottie and Derek. Yeah. But fast forward 2 years now, one of those two is Mr. Olympia, and then the other, prior to the Olympia, the Texas Pro, many people said that look, had he brought that exact look to the Olympia, he could have been fighting for top 2. Any world in which Andrew disrupts and really challenges for that Arnold Classic title.
I mean, he could. He's untested. He hasn't delivered at the big shows yet. So I haven't seen him deliver the knockout punch. Where the glutes and hamstrings are in. His legs have gotten way better. I mean, he's got some freaky calves and front quads. He's still a little shallow from behind, I think, in the glutes and hamstrings. Not terribly, but there's a world where he can win the show. I think there's a world where almost everyone I mentioned could win, given other guys being off. Now I'm handicapping this show that assuming that everyone's at their best.
Right.
That's all. I can't try to say, well, you know what? I think he's going to be off. I'm trying to say if everyone's at their best, this is the way I think it's going to work out. If they're not, then it's going to be a reshuffling of those names. So let's see what happens.
I'm going to ask you one more. Just assuming everybody's on, what would Derek have to bring that maybe he didn't bring this past Olympia? So we're now sitting about 3.5 months later. One thing specifically that he needs to bring that will give him an inside edge over Samson.
Well, he's got legs now. His legs fell apart at the Olympia, and they were small. They're big now. I've seen them. He can certainly beat Samson if Samson's off. So I think Samson holds his destiny, the cards in his hand. If he brings the conditioning he needs from behind, he wins because he's just bigger than everyone. If he doesn't and leaves the door open, Derek wins. If Derek's a little off, Andrew could win. And if all three of them are off, you can see someone like Carlos winning or Bonac or someone like that or Hakeem. You don't know. Look, I've seen shows where everyone was off. Remember the year Branch Warren came back with after the quad tear after 6 months?
I thought you were going to go 2015.
No, that was the greatest comeback of all time. I think I tell him that all the time every time I interview him. I said, no one. That's the hardest injury to come back from, and everyone was off in that lineup a little bit. And Branch fucking won. Branch wasn't off, but Branch's that one leg was a little smaller than the other one. It wasn't terribly noticeable, but it was definitely a little small. But he was the only one on, and everyone else was off. So all the guys that should have beat him didn't, and his mental toughness that got him to that stage and somehow had him get that quad back in shape in time enabled him to win. So you never know. It could be a weird, the weather could be weird. People could, there could be a virus going around. People could be sick and depleted. You don't know what's going to happen. It's bodybuilding is so unpredictable because there's so many variables that can change how people look that it's very hard to bet on it because you just don't know who's going to show up at their best and who's going to be off. And that's the excitement of it. We're going to get. Luckily, hopefully, the show will be mostly people who are in shape. I hate when I go to a show and everyone's off and we got to pick from the best of the worst. That's the worst. That's not a fun show. A better show is when you have a couple of guys that are just in insane conditioning and you're running them through pose after pose after pose after pose, and it's you got to flip a coin. That's the exciting show to watch. So we'll see what happens.
This is going to be a very exciting weekend.
Yeah.
I'm stoked now just thinking about it. Obviously, we talked really just about the men's open class, but then you look at the classic physique, and it's going to be an absolute battle.
Ali Bilal looking amazing.
Well, yeah, men's
I'm predicting his victory there.
Yeah,
over,
Aaron Banks,
over Aaron.
Diogo Montenegro. So that's going to be a very stacked top three. I just heard. I don't know if it's true. Vitor Chavez, another perennial favorite. I think he just dropped out. I'm not sure, but
Mike Sommerfeld looks like a bodybuilder. He looks insane. And you see those? He looked like Paul Dillette with the veins going through his chest.
Details is insane. Actually, you know what? He just did a little collaboration with Wesley Vissers, and the detail between the two of them is this division is now nuclear warfare. And now, look, you have them two. Obviously, the defending champion of Wesley, you have the world's number 2 and Mike Sommerfeld. But then you have a guy like Matt Grego. Now, granted, he placed 10th, so top 10, really announcing his entry to the world in terms of.
Yeah, I don't think Grego's going to beat those two guys, but he can be third.
But he's going to be a factor. And I mean, again, this, that's going to be a great, great battle. And I mean, these guys in the Classic Physique division, as we've seen in the big shows over the last few years, they don't come in off. It's conditioning levels always there, especially the Arnold Classic. You've had some missteps at the Olympia, but the Arnold Classic has always been, and we're talking about, Dave, and the coolest thing is that we're talking about 11 competitors. So you're going to get some of the best, and it's going to be an absolute battle, in these divisions. So a lot of reasons for excitement. We're going to be there in Columbus, Ohio tomorrow. Dave, myself, Chris Aceto, just actually was texting with John Hansen as well. John Hansen is going to be there as well. So we're going to have top-notch coverage. We're going to be all over the place. So tomorrow, we're going to try to get as much as we can from the Arnold Amateur, see if we can connect with Sam Sulik, after the contest or what have you. And then at night, Thursday night, is the Meet the Athletes. So that's where we will go around. We'll interview as many of the top athletes as we possibly can. And we'll try to turn that around and get it to you as fast as possible. And then Friday is the Classic Physique prejudging. That's around 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now we're trying to get a live reaction show for that. We do have a live reaction show for the Friday night and Saturday night, the finals. King Kamali, Arman Adibi, and we're trying to assemble probably going to be Amina Lai, possibly Larry and some of these guys, whatever. So we're going to be covered on the live reaction shows, and then we're going to be there on site. And then of course there's the expo. So we're going to go around that. Any of the notable personalities, any of the big mouths or whatever, any of the freak shows, we're going to get them on camera and deliver to you. So if you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. That way you're not going to miss anything that we're going to have over the course of the next 4 days in Columbus, Ohio at the Arnold Classic. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do our best to bring it all to you on the RxMuscle YouTube channel. And if you haven't already, hit us up on Instagram, official_RxMuscle. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.